In the bustling streets of New York City, where dreams get lost in the noise of the crowd, a young violinist named Jake plays his heart out, hoping to be seen, to be heard. Each note is a silent cry for love and belonging, but life has been anything but kind. Everything he knows shatters when a stranger steps up and, with just a few words, turns his world upside down. The woman you call your mother, she's not your real mother. Thrown into a journey of discovery, Jake is caught between the past and the present in ways he never expected. As he tries to piece together his story, he must face family secrets, build new connections, and confront his deepest fears. Through tears, music, and shocking revelations, Jake will uncover the truth about his mother and himself. What he finds could heal his broken heart or tear apart everything he thought he knew. The vibrant chaos of New York City swirled around me as I stood in the bustling square, my violin cradled under my chin. I drew my bow across the strings, and the rich, soulful notes poured out like a stream of consciousness, each sound a desperate plea for acknowledgement amidst the noise of rushing footsteps and distant conversations. My fingers danced on the strings, coaxing melodies that spoke of longing and isolation. Closed my eyes, imagining the applause of a grand audience, the lights shining bright, yet the reality was starkly different. Few people stopped to listen. They were too absorbed in their lives, too busy to notice the boy with the violin, pouring his heart into every note. I opened my eyes and glanced around, catching sight of the indifferent faces passing by. Some hurried, others chatted on their phones, and a few children laughed and played, oblivious to the music that surged like a tide around them. A knot of loneliness twisted in my stomach. Just once, I wish someone would hear me, I whispered to myself, but my words were lost in the cacophony of the city. As the final note lingered in the air, I lowered my violin, letting out a shaky breath. The few coins in my open case glimmered, a meager reward for my effort. "Thanks, I guess," I muttered, feeling a mix of gratitude and disappointment. I packed my instrument, each movement heavy with the weight of unfulfilled dreams, and made my way home. The moment I stepped through the door, the atmosphere shifted. My mother, Margaret, was in the kitchen, her back turned to me as she stirred a pot on the stove. The smell of something simmering filled the air, but it was the tension between us that was palpable. "You're home early," she said, her voice flat, not bothering to look at me. "Yeah, I didn't make much today," I replied, attempting to keep my tone light. I knew it would only take a moment for the conversation to shift. "I played a new piece. Felt good." "Good doesn't pay the bills, Jake," she snapped, finally turning to face me, her eyebrows knitted together in frustration. "You need to find a real job. This music thing is a hobby, not a career." I felt heat rise in my chest, the familiar sting of her words igniting a fire within me. "It is not just a hobby. I need to be who I am, and that's a violinist." My voice trembled, a mixture of defiance and desperation. "Why can't you understand that?" Her expression hardened, and for a moment I saw something flicker in her eyes. Was it guilt? "You have to grow up, Jake. This isn't a fairy tale. You're not going to find success playing in the streets." She paused for a moment, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And you don't even know who you really are." The words hit me like a slap, and I recoiled, hurt and confused. "What do you mean by that?" I demanded, my heart racing. "What are you trying to say?" Margaret looked away, her hands trembling slightly as she put down the spoon. "Some things are better left in the past," she said, her voice barely audible. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. My mind raced with questions. What was she hiding? What did she mean? I turned away, unable to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. The world felt heavy, each breath a reminder of the uncertainty that surrounded me. I needed air. I needed to escape the suffocating weight of the conversation. Without another word, I grabbed my violin and dashed back to the square, my heart pounding in rhythm with my footsteps. The chaos of the city embraced me once more, but this time I was not just an observer. I was a storm of emotions, desperate to be released through my music. As I set up in my usual spot, I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes and began to play again, pouring every ounce of my pain, confusion, and longing into the strings. Each note echoed my inner turmoil, a desperate cry for understanding. My fingers flew across the strings, the melody rising and falling like the waves of a turbulent sea. I could feel the raw energy coursing through me, and for a fleeting moment, I forgot about the world around me. It was just me and my violin, lost in a whirlwind of sound. As I played my violin in the bustling square of New York, the cacophony of the city seemed to fade away, leaving only the vibrant notes that flowed from my fingers. Each stroke of the bow resonated with my longing, a desperate attempt to be heard amidst the noise of life rushing by. I watched people hurry past, their faces a blur, indifferent to the music that poured from my soul. I closed my eyes, imagining myself on a grand stage, the lights bright and the audience captivated. But in reality, I stood alone, surrounded by the chaos, feeling more invisible than ever. It was a Saturday afternoon, and the sun shone brightly, casting playful shadows on the pavement. I poured my heart into a piece I had written, letting the music carry my dreams and frustrations. But as I opened my eyes, I noticed that only a few people had stopped to listen, and even they were merely curious, their attention fleeting. I sighed, my heart heavy with the weight of unfulfilled aspirations. Later that evening, the atmosphere at home was tense. The moment I walked through the door, I could feel the storm brewing. My adoptive mother, Margaret, was waiting for me, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "You need a real job, Jake," she exclaimed, her voice sharp. "This music thing isn't going to pay the bills. You can't just play that violin all day and expect life to come to you." I felt my chest tighten at her words. "But I need to be who I am, and that's a violinist." I shot back, my voice trembling with emotion. "You don't understand what it means to me. Not just a hobby. My life." The argument escalated, and in a moment of anger, she revealed something that shattered my world. "You think you're so special? The woman you call mother, she's not really your mother." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I recoiled, my heart pounding in disbelief. "What do you mean?" I whispered, feeling the ground beneath me shift. All my life, I had believed in the steadfastness of my family, and now, with a single statement, everything felt like a lie. I was suddenly adrift in a sea of uncertainty, my identity hanging in the balance. That night, wounded and confused, I returned to the square, seeking solace in my music. I set my bow to the strings once more, pouring my anguish into each note. The world around me faded again, but this time my melody was steeped in desperation, echoing the turmoil within. My fingers danced wildly over the strings, each pluck and slide a cathartic release of the pain Margaret's revelation had ignited. I lost myself in the music, my soul laid bare for anyone willing to listen. As I played, I noticed a man standing a few feet away, his gaze fixed intently on me. He was tall and wore a long coat, his hair tousled by the wind. There was something enigmatic about him, an aura that drew me in. After I finished a particularly poignant piece, he approached, a soft smile on his face. "You play with your soul," he said quietly, his voice a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. Surprised by his compliment, I managed a small smile in return. "Thank you. I just needed to express myself." There was a connection that sparked between us, an unspoken understanding that transcended words. "I'm Jake," I introduced myself. "David," he replied, his eyes twinkling with a knowing light. "You have a gift, Jake. It's rare to find someone who puts so much of themselves into their art. What do you hope to achieve with it?" "I just want to find my purpose," I confessed, feeling an urge to share my burden. "Music is everything to me, but I feel lost, like I don't truly belong anywhere." David's gaze sharpened, and he leaned in slightly. "The woman you call your mother, she's not your real mother, is she?" he asked, his tone calm yet probing. His words struck me like a lightning bolt, and I felt the ground shift again beneath my feet. "What do you know?" I asked, a mixture of anger and fear rising within me. "How do you know that?" He took a deep breath, expression somber. "I've seen it before. Sometimes the truth is hidden, cloaked in shadows. But you deserve to know, Jake. You've been searching for something your whole life, haven't you?" I stepped back, feeling dizzy. "How can you say that? I don't even know you." I was overwhelmed, my mind racing with questions and a sense of impending doom. "What do you know about my life? Who are you?" David studied me for a moment, and his eyes softened. "Just someone who recognizes the pain of living in a lie. You have to confront your past to find your future." I sat down on a nearby bench, my heart pounding as I stared into the crowd, each face a potential piece of a puzzle I had yet to understand. "What am I supposed to do now?" muttered, more to myself than to him. Ask the right questions, David suggested gently, and be open to the answers, even if they hurt. Sometimes the truth is the only path to healing. As his words sank in, I felt a mix of fear and determination. The chaos of the city swirled around me, but in that moment, I knew I had to dig deeper into my past. My story was waiting to be uncovered, and perhaps, just perhaps, it would lead me to the truth I had been desperately seeking. I stood there, the weight of David's words hanging heavily in the air. My heart raced as I faced Margaret, my adoptive mother, in the small, cluttered living room. What did he mean? I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. Who are you to me, really? Margaret's eyes glistened with tears, and for a moment I thought she might crumble under the pressure of my question. She turned her back to me, staring out of the window as if seeking solace from the bustling street below. Jake, some things, they're better left in the past, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Better left in the past? I echoed, incredulous. How can you say that? I deserve to know. I have a right to understand my own life. The frustration bubbled up inside me. I could feel the tension crackling between us like static electricity. Margaret finally turned to face me, her expression a mixture of sorrow and resolve. You don't understand, honey. There are reasons I can't tell you everything. Some truths can be too painful. Her voice broke, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in her facade. Painful for whom? For you or for me? Pressed, my heart racing. What kind of mother keeps secrets like this? I felt a flicker of guilt at the harshness of my words. The truth felt like a gaping wound that needed to be addressed. Her silence was deafening. I could see the internal struggle etched on her face, the way her hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. I did what I thought was best for you, she finally said, her voice steadier. I wanted to protect you from a past that could hurt you. Protect me? I scoffed, my voice rising. You're not protecting me by keeping me in the dark. I've spent my whole life feeling like something's missing. I need to know who I am. I could feel the tears brimming in my eyes, a mixture of rage and desperation swirling within me. Margaret took a deep breath, her expression softening. I know you're hurting, sweetheart. Sometimes the truth can open wounds that have long since healed. I just wanted to give you a chance at a normal life, a life free from the burdens of the past. Normal? Laughed bitterly. There's nothing normal about feeling like a stranger in my own skin. I want to know about my real mother, my real family. I want to understand why I'm here, why I have this passion for music that feels so much bigger than me. As I spoke, I felt a surge of emotions, a mix of anger, confusion, and a desperate longing for connection. I turned away, unable to look at her anymore. The truth felt like a dark cloud looming over me, suffocating and relentless. I met someone today, I said, my voice quieter now, the fire in my chest cooling slightly. His name is David. He said things that make me question everything I thought I knew. I paused, feeling Margaret's gaze heavy on my back. He said, you're not my real mother. What does that even mean? Margaret's breath hitched, and I could sense the turmoil within her. Jake, she began, but I cut her off. No, I need you to answer me. If David is right, then who am I? What am I to you? The words felt like daggers as they pierced the air. Turned around to face her, searching her eyes for any hint of truth. Jake, please, she said, her voice trembling. I never meant to mislead you. You are my son in every way that matters. I love you as if you were my own flesh and blood. But sometimes, the past is a place best left undisturbed. I shook my head, my heart racing. You can't keep saying that. I deserve more than this vague protection. I need to know the truth. With a heavy sigh, she finally relented. Fine, if you want to know, I'll tell you, but it's going to hurt. Are you ready for that? I nodded, feeling a strange mix of anticipation and dread. Just tell me. Please. She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Your mother, your real mother, was a talented violinist. She loved you more than anything, but her life was complicated, and she made choices that she thought were best for you. As her words sank in, I felt my heart race with a mixture of excitement and sadness. Was she good? I asked hesitantly, my voice barely above a whisper. Margaret smiled, a bittersweet expression crossing her face. Yes, she was incredible, just like you. I could feel the weight of her words, a heavy blanket that wrapped around my heart. Everything was beginning to unravel, and I didn't know what to do with all this newfound knowledge. I felt a strange sense of connection to a woman I had never known, and yet, somehow, I could feel her spirit in the music I played. As the warm lights of the small cafe flickered above me, I took a deep breath and adjusted my grip on the violin. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on my shoulders, and my heart raced with anticipation. This was my chance to pour everything I had into the music, to let my soul speak through the string. I glanced around at the small audience, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the overhead lights, and a wave of nerves washed over me. I began to play a new composition I had been working on, my fingers dancing over the strings with urgency. The notes flowed from my heart, each one a reflection of my struggles, dreams, and the raw emotions I had bottled up for so long. The melody soared, weaving through the air like a thread connecting me to everyone in the room. I could feel the tension in the space, and for a moment, it felt like time stood still. Suddenly, the cafe fell into a hush, every eye glued to me as I played. I closed my eyes, letting the music guide me. It was as if each note carried my pain, my longing for acceptance, and my quest for identity. I poured my heart out, letting the sound resonate deep within me. I imagined that each person listening could feel my story, that they could understand the weight of my journey. As the final note lingered in the air, I opened my eyes, panting slightly from the intensity of the performance. The cafe remained silent for a heartbeat before erupting into applause. My heart swelled with hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, I was finally being heard. I scanned the crowd, and that's when I noticed him. An older man sitting at the corner table, his eyes sharp and focused intently on me. After finishing my set, I wiped the sweat from my brow and stepped down from the makeshift stage. The man approached me, a warm smile spreading across his face. "That was beautiful," he said, his voice rich and inviting. "You play with such soul. I can feel the depth of your emotions in every note." "Thank you," I replied, trying to hide my surprise at his kind words. I just wanted to express what I feel." He nodded, his gaze penetrating. "It shows. You have a gift, Jake. You thought about pursuing it further?" I hesitated, the thought of a real job creeping back into my mind. "I'm trying to figure things out. My life hasn't exactly been easy." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Sometimes, the hardest roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. You just need to follow your heart." I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. "I want to. I really do. And there's something else I need to tell you," continued, his expression shifting to something more serious. "I've been watching you for a while now, and I think you have a unique story that needs to be told." "What do you mean?" My heart raced. Was he implying what I thought he was? He smiled gently, sensing my confusion. "I'm a music producer. I've seen many talented musicians, but there's something about your sound that resonates deeply with me. I think you could reach a much wider audience." "Really?" The word escaped my lips, barely a whisper. "Yes," he said, nodding enthusiastically. "I'd love to work with you. Let's record some of your music. You have something special, something that touches people's hearts." My mind raced, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. "But what about my authenticity? I don't want to lose that." "Authenticity comes from within, Jake. No one can take that away from you. You just need to express it in the right way." I felt a rush of warmth at his words, a sense of validation I had desperately sought. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Let's do it." He grinned, extending his hand. "Then let's create something that no one will forget." As I shook his hand, I felt a surge of hope and determination. Maybe this was the opportunity I had been waiting for. A chance to finally step into the light and share my story through the music I loved. I sat on the edge of my bed, surrounded by a sea of crumpled sheets and half-empty coffee cups, the remnants of sleepless nights fueled by confusion and longing. The revelation from David echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. "The woman you call mother is not your real mother." Couldn't shake the weight of those words. It felt like an invisible hand was squeezing my heart, leaving me breathless. With trembling hands, I reached for the dusty box that had been tucked away in the back of my closet for years. It belonged to my adoptive mother, Margaret. I had always thought of it as a collection of forgotten memories. I hesitated for a moment, my heart racing. What if I found something that changed everything? But the urge to uncover the truth was stronger than my fear. As I opened the box, the smell of aged paper filled the air, bringing with it a wave of nostalgia. I carefully sifted through the contents, old photographs, few toys, and finally, a stack of letters tied together with frayed twine. Each letter bore a different date, some from long before I was born. My heart raced as I untied the bundle, the anticipation mixing with anxiety. I unfolded the first letter, the handwriting elegant and flowing. It was dated nearly 20 years ago. To my dear Jake, it began, the words pulling me in. The letter spoke of love and loss, of a mother's sacrifice. I had to make the hardest decision of my life, it continued. I hope you understand one day that I did it out of love. My breath caught in my throat. I flipped through the letters, each one revealing fragments of a life I had never known. One letter caught my eye. It mentioned a woman named Sarah, a name I had never heard before. Sarah was a talented violinist, bred, and she loved you more than words can express. I felt a rush of emotions, joy, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of connection. I inherited my passion for music from her, I whispered to myself, my fingers brushing over the delicate paper as if it would lead me directly to her. The thought that my love for the violin was part of a legacy, a connection to my biological mother, sent shivers down my spine. Jake, are you okay? Mia's voice broke through my reverie. She had stopped by unexpectedly, her presence a soothing balm to my frayed nerves. I looked up, surprised to see her standing in my doorway, concern etched on her face. Yeah, I found these letters. I stuttered, my voice barely above a whisper. They're from my real mother. She was a violinist. Mia stepped inside, her eyes widening as she approached me, glancing at the letters scattered across my bed. What do they say? She asked gently, kneeling beside me. I handed her the letter I had just read, my heart racing. This one talks about how much she loved me, how she had to make a hard choice, I said, my voice cracking. It makes me feel connected, but also lost. I don't know what to do with this. Mia read the letter, her expression softening. It sounds like she loved you deeply. You have a part of her with you, Jake, through your music. That's something beautiful. I nodded, feeling a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. But why didn't she come for me? Why did she leave me with Margaret? Questions tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. Maybe it was the only way she thought you could have a better life, Mia suggested, her voice steady. You can't change the past, but you can honor her memory by embracing your music. Part of who you are. I took a deep breath, her words resonating within me. You're right. I've been so lost in this confusion that I've almost forgotten why I play. Mia smiled softly, her eyes shining with understanding. Let's make music together. You can channel all of this into something powerful. You're not alone in this, Jake. As we sat together, exploring the letters and piecing together my past, I felt a spark of hope igniting within me. I had a journey ahead, one filled with questions and uncertainty, but I also had Mia by my side. With her help, I was ready to uncover the truth, to explore the depths of my identity, and to let the music guide me to where I truly belong. The air felt thick with anticipation as I stood outside the old, weathered building that bore the address I had found in David's letters. My heart raced, pounding in my chest like a frantic drum. Each breath I took was shallow, as if the weight of the moment was pressing down on me. I could feel the cool breeze of the early evening swirl around me, but my mind was focused solely on what lay behind that door. With trembling hands, I reached out and knocked. The sound echoed in the hallway, a stark contrast to the chaotic symphony of the city outside. I waited, my heart in my throat, mind racing with questions. What would I say? Would she even want to see me? What if she didn't recognize me? As I stood there, lost in my thoughts, the door creaked open slowly. A woman stood there, her eyes widening in surprise. Jake? She whispered, her voice catching in her throat. My heart leaped. This was her, my mother. I'm your son, I stammered, feeling the weight of the words as they left my lips. It felt surreal, like I was living someone else's story. It was a moment I had imagined countless times, yet now that it was happening, I felt utterly unprepared. She stepped back, her hand covering her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. I always knew this day would come, she said softly, her voice filled with a mix of disbelief and longing. The shock was palpable in the air between us, a fragile connection that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. "Why didn't you come for me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you leave me?" The pain in my chest tightened, and I struggled to keep my emotions in check. "Sarah," my mother took a deep breath, her emotions spilling over. "Jake, it's complicated. I made choices out of love and fear. I wanted you to have a life I couldn't provide. I thought it was best for you." Her voice trembled, and I could see the anguish etched on her face. "Best for me?" I echoed, frustration boiling within me. "I grew up without you. I spent my whole life wondering who you were. I was always searching for something I couldn't name. How is that what's best?" Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stepped closer, reaching out as if she wanted to touch me, bridge the gap of years and heartache. "I made mistakes, Jake. I was young and scared. I didn't know how to be a mother. I thought I was protecting you by staying away." I felt anger and sadness collide in my chest, a storm of conflicting emotion. "But I needed you. I needed to know you," I shouted, feeling the walls around my heart begin to crack. "I was lost without you." Sarah looked down, her shoulders shaking as she tried to compose herself. "I know. I can't change the past. All I can do is tell you that I loved you from the moment you were born, and never stopped thinking about you," she said, her voice soft but filled with conviction. I looked into her eyes, searching for the truth in her words. "Did you really?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Did you really love me?" "Yes," he replied, her sincerity washing over me like a balm. "I always have, Jake. I wanted to be there for you, to hold you, but I thought you would be better off without me." I was wrong. Her admission hung in the air between us, fragile bridge spanning the chasm of our shared history. I felt a flicker of understanding, the tension in my chest beginning to ease. "I don't know how to process all of this," I admitted. "I feel so many things at once." "That's okay," she said gently, her eyes filled with empathy. "You don't have to figure it all out right now. Just know that I'm here. I want to be part of your life. I want to know you, to be your mother in every way I can." As her words sank in, I felt a warmth in my chest, a glimmer of hope. Maybe this could be the start of something new, a chance to heal. "I don't know what the future holds," I confessed, "but I want to try. I want to understand." Sarah nodded, her eyes shimmering with tears. "Then let's take it one step at a time, Jake. I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, I realized that perhaps the journey to understand my past didn't have to be taken alone. I took a deep breath, feeling a fragile sense of peace wash over me, knowing that the truth was finally beginning to unfold. I stood before Sarah, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum, every beat echoing the weight of the moment. The room was small but filled with warmth, sunlight filtering through the sheer curtains, casting soft patterns on the wooden floor. I had spent countless nights imagining this moment, but now that it was here, I felt an overwhelming mix of emotions swirling inside me. "I'm your son," I whispered, barely able to hold her gaze. The words tasted foreign on my tongue, heavy with years of longing and unanswered questions. Her eyes widened, shimmering with unshed tears. "I always knew this day would come," she murmured, her voice breaking slightly. I could see the years etched on her face, the lines of worry, the traces of love that had never faded. "Thought about you every day." I struggled to process her words. "But why didn't you come for me? Why didn't you try to find me?" The anger seeped into my voice despite my efforts to remain calm. "I grew up thinking I was unloved, unwanted. I had to create a life without you." "I did what I thought was best," she replied, her voice trembling. "I was young and scared. I didn't want to burden you with my mistakes." She took a step closer, her hand reaching out, but I instinctively took a step back. "I wanted to protect you from the pain of my choices." "Protect me?" I spat, hurt bubbling to the surface. "You think leaving me was protection?" I lived in a world of questions, of wondering what I did wrong. "Did you ever think about how it felt?" "I thought about it every day," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to be there for you, but I was afraid of what my presence would mean. I didn't want to disrupt your life." Silence enveloped us, heavy with the weight of everything left unsaid. I looked away, trying to gather my thoughts. The room felt suffocating, and I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. "So you just let me go?" I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You made a choice, and I had to live with it." "I made a choice out of love," she insisted, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I wanted you to have a better life. When I gave you away, I thought it would be for the best. I thought you would grow up happy." "Happy?" I echoed, frustration spilling out of me. "Do you know what I've been through? The loneliness, the feeling of being different, not belonging anywhere." Tears streamed down her cheeks, and for the first time, I saw the genuine regret in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Jake. I never wanted you to feel that way. I wanted to give you everything I couldn't. I thought I was doing the right thing." The weight of her words hung in the air, and I felt a flicker of compassion fighting against my anger. "You think I can just forgive you? That it's that simple? I don't even know you." "Then let me show you who I am," she pleaded, stepping closer again. "Let me explain why I made those choices. You deserve to know the truth about our family, about the music in your blood." "Music?" I repeated, my heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath, as if preparing to share a secret that had been locked away for too long. "Your mother, my sister, she was a violinist. She loved music as much as you do. I thought you might want to know that. It's a part of who you are." My mind raced, the pieces of my identity colliding in chaotic patterns. "So you're saying my love for the violin isn't just some random thing? It's in my blood?" "Yes," she said, her voice softening. "And it's a legacy you should embrace, not hide from. I understand you're confused, but I promise you, I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to be a part of your life." I looked at her, my heart heavy with conflicting emotion. "I don't know what to do with all this," I admitted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "I feel so lost." "Take your time," she said gently. "You don't have to decide anything right now, but please know that I am here for you. I want to help you understand who you are and where you come from." "Maybe," I whispered, feeling the enormity of the moment, the weight of my past pressing down on me. "But it's going to take time. I need to figure out how to reconcile this new reality with everything I've known." "Of course," she replied, her voice filled with understanding. "Just know that I'm here, ready to walk this path with you whenever you're ready." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the confusion. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new, a chance to heal and understand the pieces of my past that had shaped me. As I stood in the bustling square, the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden hue over everything around me. I lifted my violin to my shoulder, feeling the familiar weight of it as I took a deep breath. The chaos of the city was ever present, laughter, chatter, and the distant honking of taxis. But in that moment, it all faded into the background. I closed my eyes, allowing the music to become my refuge, a way to express everything I had been feeling. The notes flowed from my fingertips like a river, each one carrying the weight of my journey. I poured my heart into the melody, each stroke of the bow a cathartic release of the emotions I had bottled up far too long. The sounds reverberated through the square, tapestry of highs and lows that mirrored my tumultuous path. I could feel the eyes of passers-by on me, some curious, some indifferent. But I focused on the music, my soul laid bare with every note. As I played, I glanced towards Mia, who stood a few steps back, her eyes sparkling with admiration. She had become a beacon of light in my life, someone who understood my struggles and dreams, without me needing to say a word. After my last performance, she had told me, sometimes, art is the only truth we have. With her encouragement still resonating in my heart, I was determined to find my own truth through this music. Once the final notes hung in the air, I opened my eyes, momentarily lost in the applause that erupted around me. The crowd had gathered, some smiling, others nodding in appreciation. But my gaze found Mia, and I felt a rush of gratitude wash over me. She was the one who had inspired me to express my feelings, push the boundaries of my music. "Jake," Mia called, rushing towards me as I set my violin down. "You were incredible. That last part, it felt like you were pouring your soul into every note." I chuckled, wiping the sweat from my brow. "Thanks, Mia, I had a lot to say, I guess." "Do you think the producer will come back?" she asks, her eyes wide with excitement. "Maybe," I replied, my heart fluttering at the thought. but it's hard to shake off this feeling of pressure. What if I lose my authenticity in all of this? Mia stepped closer, her expression earnest. Jake, don't forget why you started playing in the first place. You have to stay true to yourself. The music is your truth. No one can take that away from you. Her words settled within me, and I nodded slowly. You're right. I can't let the fear of losing myself dictate my path. I have to trust that I can do both. Make music that's true to me and share it with the world. Just then, I spotted him, producer who had watched my performance attentively. He approached us with a confident stride, a smile plastered across his face. Jake, that was remarkable, he exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. You have something special. I'd love to discuss a recording contract with you. My heart raced. Really? You think so? I stammered, trying to comprehend the weight of his words. Absolutely, he replied, his eyes shining with sincerity. You have a unique voice, and I believe it deserves to be heard on a larger scale. What do you say? I glanced at Mia, who was beaming with pride. I'm interested, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But I want to make sure I can stay true to my music. Producer nodded, his expression serious. That's the beauty of this opportunity. We can work together to create something that reflects who you are as an artist. Your authenticity is what will resonate with people. With a mix of hope and anxiety churning inside me, I felt a spark ignite. This could be my chance to share my music with the world, to tell my story. But could I do it without losing myself in the process? Mia squeezed my hand, grounding me in the moment. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you, she said softly. Just remember, the music is your truth. Don't let anyone take that away from you. I took a deep breath, looking out at the vibrant crowd that surrounded me. The world felt both overwhelming and exhilarating, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. I was beginning to understand that my journey was not just about seeking the truth of my past, but also finding my place in the world through the music that flowed from my heart. I stood outside the small, cluttered apartment, my heart racing as I prepared to confront the woman who had raised me. My mind was a tempest of emotions, anger, confusion, a desperate need for answers. I raised my fist, trembling slightly, and knocked. Sound echoed in the hallway, a stark reminder of the confrontation I was about to face. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open, revealing Margaret, my adoptive mother, with a look of surprise and concern etched on her face. Jake? She asked, her voice shaky. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you, I stated, trying to keep my tone steady, but I could hear the edge creeping in. It's about what David said. I want the truth. Margaret's expression shifted, her brow furrowing as she stepped aside to let me in. I entered, the familiar scent of her lavender candles and worn furniture wrapping around me like a comforting blanket, yet today it felt suffocating. I took a breath, gathering my thoughts, but the weight of everything I had learned crashed over me like a wave. Jake, please, she began, her voice trembling slightly. I know this is all so confusing, but... Confusing? I interrupted, my voice rising. You call this confusing? I just found out that the woman I've called Mom my entire life isn't even my real mother. What else don't I know? Margaret's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, she looked so small, so vulnerable. Some things are better left in the past, she whispered, avoiding my gaze. No, I shouted, feeling the heat of frustration boiling within me. I deserve to know. Who am I really? Who is my real mother? What have you been hiding from me? She took a shaky breath, her hands trembling at her side. Jake, it's not that simple. I took you in when you were just a baby. I loved you as my own. I thought it was best to protect you from the truth. Protect me or protect yourself? I could feel the anger radiating from me, but deep down, I was terrified. What if everything I believed about my life was a lie? You're not my real mother, and you know it. Just tell me the truth. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she finally met my gaze. I'm sorry, Jake. I really am. Your mother, she loved you. She had to make a choice. I was there to give you a home when she couldn't. Why didn't you ever tell me? I asked, my voice softer now, the anger mingling with a sense of loss. All those years, you let me think I was someone I'm not. Margaret stepped closer, her hands reaching out to me. I was afraid of what it would do to you. I wanted to keep you safe, to give you a chance at a normal life. Normal? I scoffed, shaking my head. What's normal about being lied to for my entire life? What else don't I know? She looked down, her shoulders slumping. I made mistakes, Jake. I thought I was protecting you. But now I see that I was just trying to protect myself too. Her voice cracked, and I could see the regret etched on her face. Tell me everything, I demanded, my voice steadying as I tried to push through the hurt. I need to know who I am. Have to understand where I came from. Margaret's eyes were filled with sorrow as she nodded slowly. Okay, but promise me you'll try to understand. I never wanted to hurt you. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. Just tell me the truth, Margaret, please. With a heavy sigh, she began to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. Your mother was a talented violinist, Jake. She loved music just like you do. But she faced impossible choices. She had to give you up to ensure you'd have a better life. Tremor ran through me at her words. What was her name? Did she love me? Her name was Sarah, Margaret said softly, tears streaming down her face. And yes, she loved you. She always loved you. She was forced to make decisions that no mother should ever have to make. I felt a storm of emotions swirling inside me. Anger, confusion, and an unexpected warmth at the thought of a mother who loved me from afar. Why didn't you tell me this before? I asked, my voice trembling. Because I was afraid it would hurt you. I thought if you didn't know, you could live a happy life without the burden of the truth, she replied, her voice breaking. I stood there, the reality of my life crashing down around me. In my quest for answers, I had uncovered more questions than I ever expected. Margaret, I need you to understand. I don't hate you. I just want to know who I truly am. I want that for you too, Jake, she said, her voice a whisper. I want you to find your truth, whatever that may be. As I stood on the stage in the bustling square of Vienna, the vibrant energy of the crowd pulsing around me felt an electric mix of excitement and anxiety coursing through my veins. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden hue over everything, as if the universe itself was blessing this moment. I could hear the whispers and laughter of the audience, their anticipation palpable. My heart raced. This was it, the culmination of my journey, where music met truth, and I was ready to share my story. I took a deep breath, familiar weight of my violin resting against my chest, and let the soothing sound of the strings calm my nerves. As I began to play, every note felt like it was pulling pieces of my soul into the air, resonating with the struggles, the joys, and the revelations I had experienced. The melody flowed from me, weaving through the memories of my past. My mother Margaret's stern voice, the mysterious words from David, and the warmth of Mia's encouragement. Each bow stroke was a tribute to the journey that had led me here, to this moment of profound connection. As I finished my piece, the applause erupted around me, a wave of sound that washed over my anxiety. I could see the faces in the crowd, some familiar, some strangers, all united in their appreciation for the music. But it wasn't just the applause I craved. It was the chance to share the deeper truth behind my performance. With a trembling heart, I stepped forward, the spotlight illuminating my face, and called out, "Thank you, everyone. Your support means the world to me." I paused, letting the energy settle before continuing. Tonight, I want to share something more than just music. I want to share a story, my story, and the incredible women who shaped it. I gestured to the side of the stage, where Margaret and Sarah stood, their expressions a mix of pride and trepidation. These two women have been the pillars of my life, each carrying pieces of my heart, and I want to honor them tonight. Margaret's eyes widened in surprise, and I could see the worry etched on her face. But there was something different in her gaze, an understanding, perhaps, of the journey we'd both taken to get here. I continued, "Mom, I know things haven't always been perfect between us. I've fought against your expectations, and you've held on to your fears. But I want you to know I see you now. I see the sacrifices you've made for me, even when I didn't understand." Tears glistened in her eyes as she stepped forward. "Jake, she started, but I raised my hand, urging her to let me finish. "And Sarah," I said, turning to the woman I had only recently discovered as my biological mother. "You carried your own struggles, your own sacrifices. You're not just a name or a distant memory. You're a part of me, an integral piece of my music. I've spent so long searching for the truth, and now that I've found it, I realize it's filled with love. Love I didn't know I needed. The crowd fell silent. Collective breath held as they absorbed my words. I want to invite both of you up here with me. I gestured again, and they hesitated for a moment before stepping onto the stage. The audience erupted into applause once more, but this time it felt different, more meaningful, as if they understood the weight of this moment. Together, we've created a symphony of love and pain. I said, my voice trembling with emotion, and I want to acknowledge that love can be messy, complicated, but it's always worth it. I looked into their eyes, seeing the unspoken words passing between us. Let's embrace this complexity together. As I reached out, pulling them into an embrace, the applause grew louder, filling me with warmth. Thank you for being my anchors. I whispered, feeling their tears wet my shoulder. I love you both, and I'm ready to find my place in this world, you by my side. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the audience's applause and the love of the two women who had shaped my life, I felt a peace that I had never known before. I had found my place in the world, not just as a musician, but as a son, a friend, and a man who finally understood that love, in all its forms, was the greatest gift of all. Wow, that was intense, right? But hold on, you won't believe what's coming next. Thomas, the millionaire who seemed to have it all, gets caught off guard by a little girl's simple words. You're the man in my mom's photo. But that photo hides secrets he never wanted to face. And each discovery is about to turn his life upside down. Want to see where this story goes? Click on the video popping up on your screen now and dive into the next chapter full of twists and revelation.